Well, 56-40 at Oklahoma State in a good old-fashioned Big 12 shootout. The two teams combined to score 69 points in the second half alone. And, it wasn't always pretty, that's for sure, especially defensively. But I will say Texas Tech did get the win. They did what they needed to do in order to get out of Stillwater with a victory, which is, it never seems to be easy. So, big time win for Texas Tech. They moved to 7-4 overall, 5-3 in the Big 12, and they handled their business. I'm going to get into stats. I'm going to get into your comments. Of course, any questions you have, I need to post a link over on Inside the Red Raiders to this, but so bear with me, and I'll get into stats and your comments and all that. All right. Well, obviously, it was a good performance by the offense. Looking at the stats, Baron Morton had one of his better games again in Stillwater. Wait, before I do that, it's become a tradition to toast, whether win or lose, we drink our sorrows away together or toast the victory. So for the 7th time this season, I'd like to toast Red Raider fans out there for a big victory against a Big 12 opponent. So a team that's struggling, but bottom line is toast out to all you Red Raiders out there on the win. Not bad. It tastes much better. It goes down easier after a loss, but it tastes better after a win, that's for sure. All right, so looking at the stats, Baron Morton, 35 of 50 for 366 yards, 4 touchdowns. He had that big 20-yard run late, which helped run clock and all that, move the chains and run clock. He did have that one interception, and that was a poor decision, a poor throw. But all in all, one of his best performances by him and the offense overall. Taj Brooks was amazing once again. 28 carries, 133 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had a long of 40. He had that Wildcat touchdown, too. That was really nice. Averaged almost 5 yards per carry. But he also led the team with 9 catches. He had 65 yards and a touchdown. That was a really nice touchdown catch out of the backfield. I think that was right at the end of the first half on that 2-minute drive they had, which was, it was really important. Let's see. Taj also threw 3 passes, completed 2 of them for 38 yards. So just what a great performance by Taj Brooks. Coy Aiken had a strong game, 7 catches for 90 yards. Jalen Conyers, it was nice to see the tight ends really get involved. He had 7 catches for 74 yards in a touchdown. Mason Tharp had a touchdown earlier, and he had 2 catches. John Carlos Miller had 2 catches for 21 yards. So the tight ends really were involved in this game. Caleb Duggan, 5 catches for 105 yards and a touchdown. But really, the biggest stat to me, or the biggest player in this game, obviously Taj was Taj, and Barron had a great performance. But the biggest difference was that Texas Tech had Jacob Rodriguez and Oklahoma State didn't. It wasn't a lot of defense played in this game, especially not in the second half. But Jacob Rodriguez was tremendous again. He has just been great, just a stud all year for Texas Tech. He had 13 tackles, a fumble recovery for a touchdown, and an interception, the interception that sealed the win. So Jacob Rodriguez, I'm running out of superlatives for this guy. I think he's one of the best players in the Big 12 period, certainly on Texas Tech's team. I think he's a first-team all-Big 12 inside linebacker, may even get some All-American consideration. But, in Tech's big victories, it seems like he has made some pivotal play, whether it be like putting pressure on a quarterback, forcing a fumble like he did against Arizona, coming up with a big interception, leading the team in tackles. He is just a great player, making big-time plays for Texas Tech. And I really kind of shudder to think of what this Red Raider team would be and what the record would be like without him on it, because he's been outstanding. So with all that, we're starting to get some comments in, so I'm going to dive into them. Thomas Gilbert says, stressful game, but a win is a win. Guns up. Absolutely. Again, Kim Coulter, a win is a win. We roll on. Yeah, and before I go any further, I want to put it into context. It is another at least 7-win season for Texas Tech. They have a winning record in the Big 12 for the 3rd consecutive year. Now, they didn't have a winning record in the Big 12 prior to Joey McGuire since 2009. It was also the last time they've won 8 games in a regular season, which they have an opportunity to do next week in the home finale against West Virginia. But in Texas Tech had never won or posted winning records in Big 12 play in 3 consecutive seasons before. Now, that's since what, like 97 or something like that when they joined? They did have, when Spike Dykes was the head coach, and they made the transition from the Southwest Conference to the Big 12. I can't remember if it was which one, it was 2 and 1, but they did have 3 consecutive 5-win seasons in conference play that was combined Southwest Conference and Big 12. But in terms of Texas Tech posting 3 consecutive winning records in the Big 12, that had never happened until today. So congratulations on, I think that's a notable achievement. And they have another game to play. I mean, they might get to 6 wins in the Big 12, which would be great. And they're, with what's happened today in terms of Colorado and BYU and stuff, like, I had mentioned before, Mighty Joe and I even said, telling you there's a chance. It was a wild chance, and it still is, I think, in terms of Tech actually making the Big 12 championship. But there is a scenario out there, and I don't know. I think it's still open after what's transpired today. But we'll definitely be looking into that and seeing. I still think it's an outside shot in terms of Texas Tech making it to the Big 12 championship. But we have to say it's still there. It's still on the table. How unlikely it might be, however. So, all right. Tommy Gray said, wow. Yeah, wow. That was a wild game for sure. Dio Gloria says, JJ, guns up, man. Tommy Gray says, any explanation about the free timeout they got? No. I don't understand what happened there. And there's a lot of confusion. Just the Big 12 refs are they're terrible. I mean, like that was a theme after the Colorado game, and that's not why Tech lost to Colorado. But it just sure as heck didn't help. There were several missed calls going against Tech in that game, and Oklahoma State, like them getting another timeout. I never heard an explanation. I haven't yet. Maybe it's been explained in like the press conference or something. Thomas Gilbreth says the defense was hard to watch, but was it just injury and fatigue, or is Tech really that bad defense? Yeah, I think at this point you have to say Texas Tech is just that bad at defense. I'm not going to make all these excuses. Like, Oklahoma State's having a terrible season because there's so many injuries. Yeah, they've had a lot of injuries, but my girlfriend likes to say breaking news, nobody cares, and that's the truth. Like, nobody's going to feel sorry for Texas Tech's injuries on defense. And I don't think anybody should feel sorry for Oklahoma State or make excuses for them. So Tech started the year with a terrible defensive performance against Abilene Christian. Now they've had some other, like Arizona State to me was probably the best overall performance by the defense, considering the opponent and that they shut down Scatterbo and really what Arizona State wanted to do. And Arizona State's had a really good season this year. I mean, they could win the Big 12. You just got to call it what it is. It's a bad defense. You got a couple of really good players, most notably Jacob Rodriguez. But outside of that, the secondary has just been terrible. But really the entire defensive unit at this point, you got to say. Now, Oklahoma State has some talented players, but there's a dude making his first start. Good player, obviously, clearly, but it's hard to tell because he was going against Tech. And that's just the truth of the matter. Tech's defense is hard to watch. It's not good. I'm not going to make excuses for it. Kim Coulter says, after so much that ultimately is good, I hate to beat a dead horse or dead defense, JJ, but don't you agree 3 years is long enough to have built at least a top 50 defense? But so, yeah, I do. And look, I'm not going to make excuses for this defense. They are playing young guys. They did lose a lot. They lost some really good players. I mean, Dadrian Taylor Demerson's doing some really good things for the Cardinals. But they lost more than just that. Obviously, Jalen Hutchings and Tony Bradford were stalwarts up front, guys that started for multiple years for a reason. So, I mean, you lost some good players. Your corners, I mean, clearly they were Rashad Williams, Malik Dunlap. Clearly they were better than I think some people thought. I thought they were pretty good, not like just outstanding players, but good, especially for Texas Tech at corner. Yeah, the defense has to be better. The defense has to be better, and the offensive line has to be better. That's where I'm at. If they really want to take a step forward. Dio Gloria said, did you see McGuire get all over Coach Kenny Perry there at the end of the game? If so, what is your opinion? Here's my opinion. I've known those guys, especially Kenny Perry, for a long time. all the way back to when I was at the 4-Star Telegram covering some of their high school teams. Arlington Bowie was where Coach Perry coached and coached very well. I think some of the best teams that they've ever had. He's probably the winningest coach there. I don't know. I don't remember exactly, but he had a lot of success there at Arlington Bowie, and I covered a lot of his games. And while McGuire was having the wild success, Hall of Fame career simultaneously at Cedar Hill. And those guys have been good friends, like best friends for years, if not decades. And they still are. And in a lot of ways, Kitty Perry is like his McGuire's conscious, if you will. You know what I mean? Like he checked, like, are we really that good? Am I seeing the right thing? Is this the right, or are we really, what's going on? Like, and there were some special teams blunders there at the end. And, in the heat of the moment, they clearly got after it, got after each other. I don't know this, but just knowing those two guys and how tight they are, and just the fact that they have been friends for so long, they've been coaches for so long, they know it gets heated sometimes. I don't think this is going to be a thing. I think they'll still be friends and coworkers and confidants and all that stuff. Like I can't imagine that they have such a strong bond and it would be blown away that easily. I don't know what was said. I don't know what's going on between them necessarily, like this season, but they're very, very tight. So I expect that to be all right. Thomas Gilbreth says, do you see any coordinator changes this offseason or one more year that ultimately is do or die season for said coordinators? Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I don't have a really good gauge for that. I'm not right now. I don't think they're necessarily going to make a change. I think this may surprise some people, but of the two, considering you got a top 20 offense on one hand who just put up 56 points, and then one of the worst defenses, that it would be DeRuyter that'd be more likely to be replaced. But it's been, even though Tech hasn't been great this year, has been really bad on defense, to be honest. Consistency, I think, has been good for a number of reasons. DeRuyter has a great track record, great resume. I see some of the method, and definitely to what is madness. But overall, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they brought him back. But maybe Kidley might actually get another gig, so that could happen. As surprised as it might be to other folks, and DeRuyter might decide to retire. So I'm not sure when his contract actually expires. I don't know if it's this year. I have it somewhere, but I'm not going to pull it up right now, or next year. But he may decide that he's done. So I don't know that. I'm as curious as you are. D. Wayne says the Big 12 has to do something about the refs. What can the conference do? Hire better and hold them accountable and hire better refs. I don't know what the ref situation is. I've been told there's a ref shortage, which doesn't surprise me. Who would want to be a ref? To me, like, that seems like a very thankless job, difficult, thankless job. But there's got to be better refs out there than what we've seen so far in these last two games. The refs have just been atrocious. And speaking of that, the Red Raider for Life says, love the timeouts award to Oklahoma State. Yeah, I never really got a satisfying explanation on that, so that's terrible. Any mention from D. Wayne said, any mention from Baron Morton camp about coming back or trying to move on next year? What I've heard, not necessarily from his camp, but just from around, is that he's expected to be the starter next year, coming back as a senior. So, that you still have basically Hammond, Will Hammond. That would give him now, and I'm sure he wants to play right now. But he would be a redshirt sophomore. He'd be backing up as a redshirt freshman, Barron a senior next year. You have Lloyd Jones, quarterback, coming in, dual threat, athletic dude I like. And who knows what's going to happen with Jake Strong. I feel really good about that situation. I also feel like it's really hard to say this right now after the performance Barron put up today, but I still would like to see some more of Will Hammond. But what I've heard is expect Barron to be the starter again next year. Another poster said, pay the refs as full-time employees. Yeah, maybe so. They better be held to a higher standard. You better be able to criticize them, break down, like, hey, look at this, and get an explanation from them. That's for sure. Dio Gloria says these Big 12 refs need training. They sure do, because it hadn't been good. That's for sure. It's been terrible. It's been worse than Tech's defense. The Big 12's Big 12 refs here recently. All right. One thing I noticed is that after a win, there's not near as many comments or questions. So, and that's just fine. That's human nature. But we don't have a lot more comments. So we're going to just wait a couple more minutes, and then we might keep this pretty short tonight. But, great victory for Texas Tech. Thomas Gilbert says, after today, what are you expecting in the game next week? I mean, college football is such a week-to-week proposition. I expect West Virginia to come in and really challenge Texas Tech. That by no way do I think Tech might be favored by 3 or something like that. But West Virginia could come in and win. I wouldn't surprise me at all. But, this Texas Tech team's played hard. Their offense is rolling. Tech's offense is rolling right now. And, you got guys like Jacob Rodriguez, or a Jacob Rodriguez at least, making big plays. And there might be a lot on the line for Texas Tech, in terms of they might actually have – there is a scenario where Texas Tech makes it to the Big 12 championship. It's a wild one. It's unlikely, but I think some things unfolded today that might have made it a little more likely. And that's what D. Wayne says. Is there a scenario Tech plays in Arlington? Yeah, I'm going to see if I can find a link to it. It might take me a minute. But there was a wild scenario for Texas Tech going into this week. On 24/7 Sports, the network I'm on, and CBS, posted and specifically mentioned Tech and what needs to happen, who needs to lose, who needs to win. So I'll see if I can find that real quick. Gotta be honest, my internet's been pretty sketchy tonight. For what I do, I pay for good internet, but it hasn't been great today. So or I can't do it, I'll post it after the chat's over. So making y'all just stare at me, surfing the internet, looking for some internet. Let's see if there's any more comments. Let's see. Well, Kim Coulter says, I'm off to go cigar. Have a great night, JJ. You too, man. I plan on having a great night. I hope you do too. Sounds like you're off to a good start. We are off to a good start, given that Texas Tech got a big victory. I mean, let's just be honest. Another road victory. It's the third conference road victory this season, which, that would have been high on the list of priorities coming into the season for Texas Tech to kind of get over their road woes. So, it mattered to you. It did. If you care about Texas Tech. Dio Gloria says, what do the D-line and O-line look like for next year? Does Tech have NIL funds to pay the big guys? Yeah, they do, and they are going to need to. They're going to have to get on both lines, some help. But you have some of the younger guys we've seen play, Trey McAlpine, who are some other guys? Ansel Nador, maybe. I know he's played some outside linebacker too, but you have 4 or 5 younger guys who will be like sophomores, freshman sophomores, or juniors next year. And, hopefully you get a Joseph Adedire back, who's more of an outside linebacker, but they play like defensive ends, like a stand-up defensive end for Texas Tech. Dylan Spencer, that would be really nice. You could have really used those guys this year. But you will lose some seniors, some of those transfers. Q will be gone on defense. Offense, it's okay that they're going to replace some of these guys. That's fine with me. I'm ready for these young guys to step in, and the last 2 classes have been pretty good in terms of recruiting rankings. People that don't have a dog in the fight with Texas Tech, who think these guys have really good potential. They've been young. They've been developing. The Jacob Ponton, the Nick Fatigues. Trying to think about some other guys. Daniel Sills. Those guys have been developing. I've heard some good things about them. I'm sure I'm leaving some guys out. But they have recruited a couple of really good classes in terms of offensive linemen. They had a big gap there because the previous staff, Wills did some really good things in terms of upgrading the roster. I mean, Tyree Wilson, Muddy Waters, those kind of dudes via the transfer portal, but not offensive linemen. The offensive line recruiting was terrible, both from the high school and transfer portal perspective. And it really hamstrung McGuire and Texas Tech for him starting out here. I think that's been the weakness of this team when McGuire's been here. And that's probably dominated the conversations him and I have had mostly in the offseason, but for the past 3 years. That excuse is starting to run dry because this is his 3rd year. It does take probably the longest for offensive linemen to develop and actually get on the field. But, it's been 3 years now, so that's got to come on. So that'll be interesting to see what young guys step up. And you'll have, trying to think about who. Merriman will come back. Dalton Merriman, I think. Let's see, it's goes to transfer portal or something like that. Sheridan Wilson at center will be back. Vinny Scurry might be able to medical redshirt. They talked about him filing the paperwork and coming back, get that medical redshirt from us in this year. So, and they thought he was the best offensive lineman going into the season. So, there's some hope there that it'll be improved. Kim Coulter said, by the way, OU is up on Bama. Wow, I don't know what the score is, but that's crazy. Timbo Austin says, hard to enjoy that bad game, but I will take the W. So, nah, that's fine for you. But for me, let's say with the Cowboys or the Dallas Mavericks, we were like, if they win, I'll take it. As long as nobody like critical got injured or something like that. Texas Tech won on the road against a long-time big, conference foe. Yes, they're down, but the last thing you want to do is let them get up. You want to kick them while they're down, you really do. And they did. Tech got the win. So enjoy it, man. Enjoy it while you can. D. Wayne says, great. I hate OU. Jared, how did they treat you in Tech Media at Gaylord Stadium? Gaylord Stadium. I haven't been to Oklahoma. Let's see. The last time was probably 5 years ago or something like that. They were all right. It was okay. I don't remember being mistreated there. It's funny at Boone Pickens at Oklahoma State back in the day. They treated me really well. It was unbelievable how nice people were there. But Gaylord, I don't remember anything being terrible. Oklahoma fans are Oklahoma fans. So. But in terms of the actual people working there, they were pretty good. Dio Gloria says Hanson number 91 came out of nowhere to sack Oklahoma State QB1. That's the type of consistency we need. Well, coming out of nowhere, that's not exactly consistency, but it was a big play. It was a good play, and they needed it. And Tech didn't get a lot of pressure, obviously. They forced a couple turnovers again, J-Rod, and did what they had to do. They made more plays on defense than Oklahoma State. So, it was nice to see Hanson come in and make a big play. So, hopefully that will continue next week. That Hanson could, get a sack against West Virginia and Tech can get another big victory, and then we'll see what's up. I'll find this link to the story and post it. There'll probably be some news stories after this week from the scenarios, but I'll post a link in the chat. But, we're going 23 minutes. I think that's pretty good. Good comments from y'all. Really appreciate everybody watching. Big time win for Texas Tech out there. Y'all have a great weekend. Have a great Thanksgiving next week, by the way. Again, thanks for watching and joining in. And until next time.